To get the best results in the draft, you don't just need to draft the best players, you also need to draft the best players that fit your scheme, either offensively or defensively, and have the vision for them to succeed. So today, me and my co-host Nick Corbs, we're going to be going over 5 players and giving their most ideal landing spot, considering things like factors, path to playing time, supporting cast, skill set, and much more. Nick, you excited?
I'm so excited, Dom. You know, it's all good talking about prospects, but it's more important where they end up. And I think the ones that we have today, in our opinions, are the perfect scheme fits.
Yeah, I think I've got some really good ones here, Nu, and we're going to jump straight into it. We're first going to start with a few honourable mentions, because I think me and Nu have very heavily favoured the offensive side of the...
We're offensive minds.
We're offensive minds. I also do think that it's much easier to project an offensive fit than it is with a defensive fit, just because of how the systems operate, right? Like, you can draft any player to basically any offense for the most part. That is definitely not the same defensively, right? There are some teams' defensive boards are going to look entirely different to others. There's going to be players that are on there, players that aren't. It depends if you're on a 3-4 or a 4-3. There's a lot of stuff to work out. So we're going to focus mostly on the offensive side of the ball, but I am going to start us off though, Nu, with an honourable mention to Malaki Starks. And I think his best landing spot, his best fit, is the Seattle Seahawks. I think that Starks is a premier talent in this draft class. I think he's got fantastic coverage ability, manned up against Luther Burden in the slot 2 years ago now. He's incredibly versatile because of that coverage ability, can play purely in the slot, can play that safety role as well. And I want him to go to a team and a defensive, either minded head coach or a defensive coordinator, which knows how to use that versatility. And I think Mike Macdonald is the perfect person for him to go to, frankly. He's someone that knows how to use players exactly like that, used Kyle Hamilton like that when he was in Baltimore. Not the same style of player, but someone that has a similar versatility to them, right? And the only reason why this is an honourable mention, again, talking about defensively, it's quite hard to find where people fit, because technically Devon Witherspoon actually plays more snaps at that nickelback position in the slot as a slot corner than he does as a full-time outside corner. So I was worried about a bit of an overlap there. But what do you think about Starks to the Seahawks?
Well, I think he's the best safety in this class. We've talked about it extensively, him versus Nick Emmanwori, and I think that's a great fit. I still think that in the Jaxson Dart sweepstakes, because that Sam Darnold contract's still so front-loaded, so maybe keep an eye on that, but it's hard to argue against that fit.
Oh, interesting. Is that a little hint for later, potentially?
No, it's not a hint for later. I was too controversial for the sake of being controversial. But the fact that Donald's contract is only guaranteed for the first year does signal maybe a bridge quarterback. A lot of money's paid bridge quarterback, but there's something in that for sure.
I don't know. And then do you have an honorable mention, or shall I finish my second one?
You finish your second on one. I've only got 5.
So, my second honorable mention, before I get into that, make sure you subscribe for more draft content. Me and Nu are edging... No, we are getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and we'd appreciate the support. So, my second honourable mention is Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Texans. Now, I'm kind of coming back on my Banks train here, Nu. We previously did our top 50 big board. If you want to check that out, then that's a previous video. Go and check it out. But I was too scared. I was too scared. I let the consensus get to me, and I put Banks too low, I fear. And in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 3.0, he had the Texans taking Kelvin Banks Jr. And Daniel Jeremiah does his mocks based on what he's hearing around the league. And for him to be falling that low, it would surprise me massively. If I put money on it, would Kelvin Banks fall in the 20s? I seriously doubt it. But I could see the Texans trying to trade up for him if he were to fall into the teens. I could see that happening. And I would love that fit. We desperately need offensive line after our terrible free agency period, getting rid of trading away Laramie Tunsil. So I think he'd be a fantastic fit. But without further ado, Nu, take us away with one of yours.
So I'm going to start off with maybe my most controversial perfect fit. But it's Jalen Milroe to the New York Jets.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. You're starting us off with a funny one, but let's hear it.
There's logic to it, and I want to explain it. So Jalen Milroe is a developmental quarterback. Of course he is. I don't think he's ready to start tomorrow. I'm not saying that the Jets need a quarterback, therefore draft Jalen Milroe, who's going to start week 1. No. What I'm saying is they've got Justin Fields, and I think he's the perfect mentor for Jalen Milroe. I think that is I think the way that. But how am I going to explain this? But I think having a backup quarterback that also relies on athleticism means that he's more able to plug and play when he is with the starters, with the system, and it's not too much of a difference. And he's going to go in the second or third round. But what I like about it is it's low risk for the Jets. If he pans out well at the end of Fields' contract, he can be the Jets starter. If he doesn't, Fields is a very good quarterback. It can even possibly lead this struggling team to the playoffs. So I think it's a perfect fit, even though I must admit the Jets ruin every quarterback talent ever. You can't... I'm just going to ignore that because otherwise the Jets and the Browns, you could say, never have a positional fit because they ruin every player. But I think it's a good fit.
So I got a question for you, New. First of all, I see where you're going, right? Like Milroe is a high risk, low reward kind of player that you can draft in the second round and see if he can become anything. And for a team like the Jets, who are obviously in a rebuild, a reset, if that's what you want to call it, with better PR, because there is some talent on that roster like Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams, Breece Hall. But what exactly is Fields mentoring Milroe in, considering that he's had no success in the league?
I think Fields having no success in the league is a lie. I don't think that's true.
What do you mean it's a lie? What are you, the White House press secretary?
With Chicago, I didn't get paid to put up the numbers, but he threw for 25 touchdowns, 10 picks, obviously less than 4,000 yards, but he is a very good, probably one of the better elite game managers. He's a top 30 quarterback in the NFL. I want him with the Giants personally. I think he was very harshly treated in Pittsburgh, being forced out by Russell Wilson. He was 4-0 as a starter. Saying that he's not a good quarterback, I think is completely false.
Well, he's not a bad quarterback, but generally when we're talking about mentors, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers, we're talking about even someone like a Jacoby Brissett, right? Veterans that have been in the league for a long time. Justin Fields has been a starter for, 1-2 years tops?
Well, so he was drafted in the Giants. He traded up with I can't think what year he was drafted in now, actually. He was drafted in Trevor's year, so 2021.
Sorry?
He was drafted in 2021.
Yeah. He was a 2021 draft class. He was drafted by the Bears,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, and he's had 3 full years as a starter, 2 different offensive coordinators, and also when he was in Chicago
last year,
he started for 4 games, and when he was in Chicago, he was playing behind the worst offensive line of football. I think he was harshly treated by being kicked out the door in Chicago. Played well in Pittsburgh, playing well again for the Jets, and this is what I'm saying. I think I'm higher on him than you are. But if he doesn't work out in New York, you've got a throw at the dartboard in Jalen Milroe that can maybe inspire hope in your fan base. Look, I think it's a win-win for the Jets, Jalen Milroe. I think it's a good fit.
Okay, look, let me level with you, right? I see where you're going with the mindset of, well, you're not going to draft a Shedeur Sanders to the Jets when you've got Justin Fields as your starter, right? You have to have 2 completely different offenses. So Jalen Milroe will slot nicely into that style of offense, being a similar, probably a better rushing threat, not quite as good as a thrower though. And when you're comparing a passer to Justin Fields and saying he's not quite as good as Justin Fields, then you're in a bit of trouble there. But I don't know about the mentor thing is all I'm saying. I think we need a bit of a palate cleanser after that one. Because that was an interesting one. I'm gonna go with Tetairoa McMillan to the Green Bay Packers. Now, personally, I think T-Mac will be long gone by the time the Packers are picking. But again, in Daniel Jeremiah's mock, based on what he's hearing, he had him fall all the way to 22. And in a lot of mocks around the league this time of year, we are seeing McMillan falling, right? I know you and me are in lockstep here. I would take McMillan at 4 to the Panthers. I'd take him at 4 to the Patriots. 8, there's no way he's getting past 8 to the Panthers if I'm the GM of the Panthers. But it is seeming like people around the league are lower on him, right? And that might be reflected by NFL teams. If he does fall, I think he's a perfect fit for the Packers. I think they need a wide receiver 1. They've got, obviously, Romeo Doubs and Jayden Reed, but they're role players. They're wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s. Obviously, Christian Watson has a pretty significant injury history at this point. He tore his ACL versus the Bears at the end of the season. He's going to miss some time. And again, after a few injuries, we're not really sure what version of Watson we're going to be getting anyway. McMillan is 6'4", 220 pounds, really smooth, really fluid. He's a yards after the catch and tackle breaking monster. I think he'd pair so well with Jordan Love. He'd be a great complement to Jayden Reed as the wide receiver 2 then, and Romeo Doubs as the wide receiver 3. That's suddenly a really great wide receiver core. And also Matt LaFleur, as the offensive-minded head coach, he got the most out of Malik Willis. Imagine what this guy could do with Tetairoa McMillan with that yards after the catch ability. And I think LaFleur is a perfect coach with McMillan, because one of my big points about him is that he shouldn't be confined to just this Mike Evans usage, running vertical routes from the outside, just being that kind of sacrificial lamb running clear out routes against press coverage. He needs to be moved inside, give him in breakers, give him slants, posts, ins, and let him have those yards after the catch opportunities, which is those routes that you can run when you can get those opportunities from. So I think he'd put up monstrous numbers in Green Bay with Jordan Love, a good wide receiver core, and a great head coach. I think it's a great fit for T-Mac and the Packers.
That's an interesting one, because again, I don't think he's going to fall that far. I always think about giving T-Mac to a few teams, and I just think it's slightly ambitious for the Packers. Another thing I would say is we talked earlier in the season that the Packers receiving room is greater than the sum of its parts. They work together and they fit in very nicely with each other. And they make one of really wide receiver 2s. They level each other up. Tetairoa McMillan sort of like the entire Arizona offense was Tetairoa McMillan, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, he's sort of a player that you build your offense around, not someone who slips into a scheme, if that makes any sense. But I'm sure he could probably do both. But I just think
if you can have an offense built around you, you can also slip into a scheme.
That is true. But I just don't think he's going to be there, to be honest, Dom. But I think it is still a good fit.
I would agree with you, but it genuinely, in so many mock drafts that I'm seeing, and look, as we well knew, it only takes one team, right? If the Panthers like him, he's gone. But he is sliding. He is sliding. And I don't think he'll go as early as we have him at all. So, and I think if he fell far enough, I'd be fine with the Packers trading up for him. Like, they need a wide receiver 1. They need a dog. They need an alpha. And I think McMillan can be that. So,
well, that actually transitions quite nicely to my second, because given that I think McMillan's going to be gone, I have the Carolina Panthers and Luther Burden as a dream. Because obviously the T. Higgins sweepstakes are now over. He's gone back, re-signed for silly money, if you ask me, but that's a topic for another day. And for me, the Panthers were my T. Higgins dream landing spot. And I think Luther Burden, great wide receiver 2, obviously not the same level as T. Higgins, but can do a similar role for the Panthers, which they so badly need. That offense, and especially skill position talent, is so dire. It's really, really bleak. And McMillan, who I think will be the best wide receiver available, I think would slot in perfectly and help out a potentially flourishing Bryce Young.
You mean Burden there?
Sorry, what did I say?
McMillan.
Oh, sorry, I meant to say Burden. Sorry.
No, I like that shout from you a lot, Nu, because I was going to say McMillan to the Panthers as well. And what I think Burden offers, as well as McMillan, is that yards after the catch ability, which really this offense is massively lacking, right? They've got Jalen Coker, they've got Adam Thielen, and they've got Xavier Legette.
Yeah.
None of those guys offer that yards after the catch threat, which Burden is the best in the class at that, as that kind of Malik Neighbors light style of player, right? There's someone that you can have him run any route from the slot, and he's going to pick up 5-6 extra yards every time he does. So I really like that pick. I would also love an extra weapon for Bryce Young, continue to invest in him. I know the Panthers invested a lot along the offensive line in recent years, and at running back, even gave silly money to Tommy Tremble, which is a bit bonkers. But just keep investing around Bryce Young. They spent so much draft capital on that guy. Why not give him a proper weapon in the first round? I think it's a great fit. I've also got a quarterback fit here, Nu.
Okay.
Not to toot my own horn, but I think this is a hell of a lot better than yours. And that is Jaxson Dart, your boy,
my boy,
to the Rams. Now,
Dart
is, and this isn't in the first round, by the way. This is just draft fit.
Pick 60. Oh, okay. Regardless of draft position.
Yeah, this is just draft fits.
Okay.
Dart is nowhere near ready to start right away. We spoke about this on our top 50 show the other day. He took, in the last 2 years, 943 snaps at Ole Miss. 9 of those were under center, right? He is that, you cannot go into the league, you cannot start in year 1 when you have such little experience taking the ball under center. He is a ball of clay. He needs time to develop. I agree with you, Nu. There are lots of things to like about Jaxson Dart. And that's why I think it's a great fit, because the Rams are always going to be competitive with Stafford and Sean McVay, right? The floor of the Rams is going to be pretty high. I'm really high on Stafford. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And he re-signed a contract, keeping him in LA for this year. And the team said they're going to kind of look at it every year and see where both of them are at. That's perfect for Dart. Gives him at least 1 year, ideally even 2, to just sit and develop in a Sean McVay offense, which I think is a prime landing spot for a young quarterback to try and soak in as much as he can about the league. The Rams need a quarterback of the future because of that high floor the Rams have with Stafford. They're never going to be in a serious quarterback sweepstake, right? Like, they're always going to be drafting in the 20s, let's say. And you don't get guys in the first round in the 20s that you're going to feel good about starting. Even Michael Penix went at what, 12? So
yeah, I think it was 8 actually. Yeah, it was even
8,
earlier.
Sorry, and then McCarthy went at 12.
12, yeah.
It's a case of, I think Dart is someone that's really good to draft and to stash, kind of a little bit in the mold of a Jalen Hurts, right? Like, again, Hurts went at the top of the second. I'm not comparing Dart to Hurts, but in that same vein of, you've got a quarterback, but why not just take a swing on another one? And if they don't pan out, then fine, you've got a backup. That's absolutely fine. And I think it's a great way for the Rams to take a swing at a high upside quarterback that's not ready to start, but it's massively beneficial for both of those parties because neither one of them wants the other one to start.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, actually. I think that's a good take. The only issue is that where do you draft him? I think the Rams could potentially trade back and then take Dart, but you've seen him, like, for example, Dan Jeremiah, he's mocked all over the place. I see him mocked as high as 3 and as late as the 3rd round. So it really is, I think that's a perfect scheme fit, but it's just how important. I think the Rams could take him in the 1st, but again, it depends what they think is more valuable. Is an instant player?
I don't think Dart's going to go in the 1st, though. For what it's worth, I don't think Dart's going to go in the 1st.
I'm leaning to agree, but I think just purely because that 5th year option on the 1st round, if Dart does pay out, I think a team might take him at the very end of the 1st.
Yeah, they say that though, but like, look at Malik Willis. He fell to the 2nd, and he was a much better prospect than Dart is now.
Oh no, Malik Willis is not a better prospect. He was in
Malik Willis was seriously in the shout for the Texans at 2.
Yeah, I know. Brett Cohen mocked him number 1 overall, but that was the weakest quarterback class maybe ever.
No, that was the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young class. Anthony Richardson.
Are you sure?
Yes, 100%.
I thought it was the year before.
No. Because I was terrified that we were going to draft Will Levis.
But I was talking about Will Levis so so confused. I thought you were talking about Malik Willis. Did you talk about Willis or Levis?
No, Will Levis.
Oh, Will Levis. I thought you said Malik Willis there. Sorry. I was confused. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the thing is that, like, I agree. We always talk about the 5th year option and it's really valuable. But fundamentally, I also think the flip side of that is that if you draft a quarterback in the 1st round, there's so much more expectation, so much more pressure to play that guy, right? So I hear what you're saying, and like, it happened with Jordan Love, it happened with Lamar Jackson, those guys who are developmental and getting drafted in the back end of the 1st round. But it's also with Malik. I think it depends how high you are on them, and I really don't think that Dart's going to go in the 1st round. I might be wrong. We'll see on draft day, and we'll definitely talk about it if he is or isn't. But for me, I just don't see it. Who's your next fit?
So my next fit is the one that I called the earliest, and I think it is just genuinely the perfect pairing, and that is Tyler Warren to the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Let's hear it.
So the Colts tight end room is actually terrible. I had to have a look on the depth chart today because I couldn't think of anything, and it's Drew Ogletree. I don't even know who that is. That is an insanely niche pull, so it's a massive positional need. And also, Anthony Richardson is a quarterback that is always going to struggle with accuracy. That's not the name of his game. That's not the way he's going to succeed. They knew that when they drafted him. And a tight end, having that short and intermediary routes are so important to help out a less accurate quarterback. Well, also, he's really good in the run game. He's a great run blocker, and that's going to help Jonathan Taylor. It's going to free up the run game, free up the pass game. It's genuinely the best. And also, I think it fits where he's going to go in that range. He might even go earlier, but for me, it is the perfect positional fit.
Look, we've said it from the beginning. I love that fit as well, right? An extra weapon for Anthony Richardson. If he can't produce with Warren, A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, then just that's it, right? You know you've got nothing there. And he is a bit like a force multiplier, right? With that blocking ability for Jonathan Taylor, like you say. I think it is a great fit. And also with Shane Steichen, so a coach that I've been higher on than I was kind of now because of how last season ended up. But I think he's a kind of offensive mind that would use him really well. I also have Tyler Warren as one of my fits, but I don't have him to the Colts.
Saints?
Bears.
Wow, okay.
Now, let me cook with this one. I came up with it on the mock draft I did the other day, and I loved it. It would allow the Bears to run 12 personnel, right? Warren as the wide tight end, Cole Kmet as the big slot. We know that Ben Johnson and coaches in the NFL love running 12 personnel, especially with receiving options at tight end, just because it puts the defense in a bind. You've also then got Rome Odunze, you've got DJ Moore, another weapon for Caleb Williams, not Anthony Richardson, but another young quarterback that needs help. Ben Johnson, with the positional versatility of Tyler Warren, that's going to feed families, right? We saw Penei Sewell catching passes. We saw Jameson Williams throwing passes. Tyler Warren was a high school quarterback. That's why he was used as a quarterback very often in the Penn State offense. But not only was he used as a quarterback, he was used as a traditional tight end, in the slot, out wide, fullback, running back, as a center, even for one play, as you mentioned a few episodes back as well.
It's USC. Watch the film. It's a great film.
It's crazy, right? Like Tyler Warren, for me, is an offensive Swiss Army knife in the same mold that Brock Bowers was. And I think he would play into Ben Johnson's system so well. Like, that guy is like an evil genius with play calling. We saw it down the stretch with the Lions last season. Imagine if he had Tyler Warren, like a 6'7" quarterback that can throw it and he can run it. He can be used on goal line dives to try and punch the ball in himself. I just think it would massively help Caleb, like you're talking about with Richardson. I think it would help DJ Moore and Rome Odunze kind of take the pressure off them a little bit. I just think it would work so well. Like, I love your fit to the Colts, but I just think the Bears is slightly better.
Well, speaking of the Bears, that links nicely onto my next one, which is for the Bears, and it's Ashton Jeanty.
Oh,
and
okay, all
very
right.
similar to the reason what you said about Ben Johnson. You think about Thunder and Lightning, Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic? Yeah, that's right. With Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They've already got DeAndre Swift, but Ashton Jeanty is a generational running back talent. Imagine what Ben Johnson can do, like you saw in Detroit, with an elite running back. They already have the receivers there. And you saw with Sam Laporta, I think they can maybe get more value out of someone who's maybe not as, maybe in the second. They can maybe pick up on the in a very deep tight end class.
Or Cole Kmet, right? Like, I'm not a big Cole Kmet guy, but he can catch the ball from the tight end position.
And I would argue running backs are more positional need than tight end.
Oh yeah,
the Bears.
yeah.
Like, you did a very good TikTok a while back about DeAndre Swift just running into his own men. Ashton Jeanty does not do that. He's got the best vision of any running back I've ever scouted. Insane contact balance, and also it's going to help out Caleb Williams so much. The offense massively underperformed with great receivers and with a great quarterback, but they weren't able to put it together. And a good running game does help so much. And take the best running back that has been in the last couple of years in Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a fantastic pick, right? The way the Bears have positioned themselves this offseason with a whole new interior offensive line, Joe Tooney, Drew Dalman, Jonah Jaxson, like completely frees them up to take a player like Ashton Jeanty. And yeah, I mean, again, I think he's an underappreciated option in the receiving game as well, Jeanty. Like, he'd be another weapon for that Bears offense. We're thinking on the same page here, Nu, because I've also got a running back to a team that will give a similar Lions feel here.
Okay.
And that is TreVeyon Henderson to the Chargers. Now, previously, this was the Amarian Hampton dream, right? Yeah. But then they signed Najee Harris in free agency. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Henderson dream emerges. You've got Najee Harris as that Montgomery Thunder hammer role. Then you've got Henderson as that Jahmyr Gibbs lightning scalpel role. Harris, that downhill bruiser running between the tackles. And then you've got Henderson, that big play threat, speedster running on the outside, right? A bit how Gibbs does it, almost exactly right. And the Chargers love running the football. Greg Roman loves running the football. Harbaugh loves running the football. And I think having Najee Harris, who I'm not massive on, I think he's fine. I think he was overdrafted, and I think that's kind of followed him. He's a good back, though. He's not dynamic, right? He's a bit more old school. But adding Henderson, suddenly, those two guys, on like the aggregate combined, would make for one of the best backfields in the league.
Well, I still think Amarian Hampton would be a good pick. But I do really like what you're thinking. And I think TreVeyon Henderson does have... I think that's the best value you're going to get out of him. It's not having him there for the boring 3 yards up the middle. It is in the passing game. It's on third down. It's when you can really spread him out wide. And I think that's a good fit.
Yeah, no, I would love that. But again, how that would happen for the Chargers. I wouldn't love them drafting Henderson at 22.
Yeah, he's not a first-round talent. I think that's you take Hampton before Henderson at 20.
No, you would definitely take Hampton before Henderson, but I mean, it's kind of to the point now where it seems like Hampton and Jeanty might be gone by the time the Chargers are picking. So, we'll see on draft day. But I would love this fit. If we could manufacture it, it would feed families. Do one more because I've got one more.
So I've also got the Chargers, and I think it's important here that we don't talk about these lists before we do them. So this is all chance. I just managed to link all these teams together. I've got Colston Loveland, the tight end, going to the Chargers.
Yeah, classic.
Because they signed R.J. Harris, signed Mekhi Becton. They are committing to this power run game, right? That is sort of the name of the game. They re-signed Mike Williams, but they didn't really do much in terms of help with receiver help. Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh, coach in Michigan, absolutely loves Colston Loveland. The thing he does the best, more than basically any tight end in this class, is the fundamentals. Right? He runs sharp routes, got good hands, and he's a clean blocker. Jim Harbaugh is going to love this kid. He helps the power run game so much and in turn, that will help the short passing game that they're doing with Justin Herbert. He's going to be on the field all down, every down. I can see him playing a ridiculous amount of offensive snaps. And for me, it's just the perfect fit. It's a positional need with a great coach fit who's already familiar with the player.
Yeah, I mean, that's one as well. I think with Tyler Warren to the Colts, right? Like,
he's going to be there.
It's Colston Loveland to the Chargers at 22, and I agree with you. I'm getting a bit higher on Loveland. I've been watching some more of his tape, and I do think that I was kind of underrating his blocking skills at the beginning. I think he is better than I was giving him credit for. But as a receiver, I mean, he's fantastic, and you need someone apart from Ladd McConkey to actually be able to catch the ball in this Chargers offense. Maybe you've seen enough from Quentin Johnston to feel like he could be at least someone on the outside. Maybe you could look to draft another receiver later in the draft. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously the chemistry there between player and coach already would be amazing. And then I think the Chargers tight ends led the league in drops from the tight end position this year.
Really, I didn't know that.
Like, they were absolute liabilities out there, and Colston Loveland would be a massive upgrade and a position of need. So a great fit. Great value.
Colston Loveland thrived in Michigan in a run-heavy offense. Still managed to produce, and that's the exact same, more or less the exact same offense he's going to go into. So, yeah,
nice.
who's your last scheme fit, positional fit?
The last fit that I have here is my guy. I had to get him in.
Okay,
and that's Jayden Higgins, the wide receiver from Iowa State to the Bills.
Ooh, okay, I like that. I like that a lot.
I love Jayden Higgins. I've said before, and I'll say it again. I'll say it till I'll put it on my gravestone. Jayden Higgins can be an ex-wide receiver one in the NFL. I know people see him as a power slot. I think this guy has a higher ceiling than that. The Bills need an outside guy. We said this last offseason. They have 1 million slot receivers. They've got Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, now Laviska Shenault. You can only play, and I know Kincaid's a tight end, but he's a pseudo big slot, right? That's fundamentally how he wins. The outside receivers are Josh Palmer. Okay, fine. Your kind of average outside wide receiver, right? Keon Coleman. I liked him. I think him and Laviska Shenault, we didn't quite see what we wanted to from those guys, but obviously we're happy to keep letting them develop. Jalen Virgil. Never heard of that man. And Tyrell Shavers. Again, never heard of that man.
That's an East vs. West Shrine Bowl name. That is a Key and Peele sketch.
These guys, I'm sorry, I do not know that man. I am just so underwhelmed by the Bills' outside options. I think Josh Palmer is fine, but I think he's what you want to upgrade fundamentally. And they need the weaponry. Kincaid dropping the pass versus the Chiefs is kind of what sold them in that game, right? Josh Allen's making heroic plays out there, extending the play, throwing as he's stepping out of bounds. You need someone that can be that weapon. And Higgins had a terrible quarterback situation this year at Iowa State. Genuinely terrible. And most of his routes were fade routes. Most of the fade routes resulted in uncatchable balls, right? So he was not put in a position to succeed. He's 6'4", 212 pounds. I think he moves incredibly well for his size. He's got great ball skills. Only 2 drops, 58% contested catch rate. I think you put Higgins with Josh Allen, I think it's going to go off. I will be there and I will buy a ticket because the Higgins hype train, if he goes to Buffalo, to the moon.
You're his number one fan. And I'm also very high on Higgins. And I think that's a good positional fit. I think it's also good value where they're picking. I think that's really important to think about. The only slight gripe, which is not much, I'm just going to ask the question, is he's more of a developmental player, I think I would say. I don't think you're expecting Higgins to be a 1,000-yard receiver when he gets drafted. tomorrow. And the Bills definitely have a Super Bowl window. Do you think that fits in with the same timeline with Higgins?
Yeah, 100%. Receivers do tend to... We saw Marvin Harrison struggle a little bit out of the gate. It's not a catch-all rule, but I do think that receivers are one of the cleaner projections to the league, right? Like the position's fine. It's not like offensive line where it takes ages. It's not like defensive line where the physicality is different and you're against bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic guys. I do think that Jayden Higgins will hit the ground running in the league, especially when you give him a quarterback like Josh Allen. I think just like the upgrade that he would have at the quarterback position. I think Jayden Higgins is going to be someone that's going to come into the league and immediately shock people with how much better he is than when he was at college, as with his teammate, Jalen Knoll. So I love both the Iowa State guys, but Jayden Higgins, I think, is probably the biggest my guy in this class. And I've got him as a first rounder, you well know, and we said it on the top 50. Yep. And I'm seeing people come around. Brett Coleman had him in the Offensive Gems episode. I'm seeing him being some people's wide receiver 3. I am so here for the Jayden Higgins hype. He's so good, and I think him at the Bills. I love the Bills. I got a soft spot for the Bills. I'm not.
Yeah, I think everyone does, especially the UK
team, right? Yeah. Like Josh Allen is kind of pooky, and just give him another weapon. Give him another weapon. So that's what we've got. You'll see our fit and the players on the screen now. Let me and Nu know what you think about them in the comments. Nu started us off with a bit of a curveball there with Jalen Milroe to the Jets, but look.
I play aggressively, Dom. That's my offensive strategy. Play to win.
We speak our minds on this channel. We speak our minds on this channel. Let us know which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and let us know also what fits you think would be the best. Maybe you think that someone like Shamar Stewart to the Eagles would be great, or a James Pierce Jr. to the Falcons. I don't know. Let us know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for more draft content. I've been your host, Dom Corbs. That's my co-host, Nick Corbs. We've been on Sportsmanlike Conduct. We'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.